Hi, it's me, and today I'm filling in a bit of a gap in my Fuji coverage by checking out their new XF 23mm f1.4 RLMWR. Nice! It's an update to their aging 23mm f1.4 model. You can tell the difference between the two by the obviously different physical structure and by the WR in the name of the new lens, denoting that this newer model is now weather resistant. This lens costs about £800 here in the UK or $900 in the US, a bit expensive but potentially good value if it's good enough, and I'd like to thank Fuji UK for loaning me a copy of it for a couple of weeks for testing. However, this is as usual a totally independent review. 23mm on an aps-c sized sensor is the full frame equivalent of 35mm for that classic wide but not too wide angle. Perhaps not the most exciting field of view imaginable, but certainly one of the most useful for everyday shooting, and an aperture as wide as f1.4 lets in plenty of light for shooting indoors or getting nicely out of focus backgrounds. Let's look at this thing's build quality first, and it follows Fuji's recent trend of standardizing and rather straightening out the shape of their prime lenses, where before they were a bit of a hodgepodge. The body is a mixture of high quality plastic and metal, and the whole lens weighs about 375 grams, so it has a pleasant little weight to it without being heavy. The lens is weather sealed nicely, some evidence of which is the generous gasket at the rear lens mount. As usual though, I'm too much of a wimp to test out how waterproof it might or might not be. Then we get an aperture control ring with lovely clicks at every third of an f-stop. You can also lock it in and out of the automatic position if you want to. Gone is the old focus clutch mechanism of the previous version of the lens. Some people loved it, although I didn't really, and in comes a standard metallic manual focus ring which turns super smoothly. Some great news here is that the lens displays almost no focus breathing, which is very useful for video makers. The lens's autofocus is very quick and silent in use. However, I did run across the occasional slight focus accuracy problem when using it on my Fuji X-T3. It would occasionally miss just a little, so watch out for the accuracy of any lens that you buy. The lens has a 58mm filter size and comes with a generously sized plastic hood. It does not have its own image stabilization. Overall, its design is neat and tidy, tough, with good functionality. Let's take a look at image quality now. I'm testing it here on a Fuji X-T3 camera with its usual hard-coded in-camera corrections and 26 megapixel aps-c sized sensor. In the middle of the image, we see excellent sharpness and contrast straight from f1.4. Nice! The corner image quality isn't quite as perfect, but it's still very, very sharp, which is great to see, particularly on a wide-angle lens. Stop down to f2 for a clear improvement in sharpness and brightness, leaving corner image quality as perfect as the middle. The lens stays this sharp until you stop down to about f11, where diffraction begins to soften the image, and at f16 things are looking pretty rough. But there's no avoiding diffraction, is there? Overall, the lens is brilliantly sharp, and its corner image quality particularly is a major improvement over its predecessor. Excellent. Let's take a look at vignetting and distortion now. Normally, in-camera corrections will take care of all of this for you, but here are some pictures I took in RAW to check out the actual performance. We are seeing some clear barrel distortion here, and at f1.4, strong vignetting in the corners. Stop down to f2 or f2.8 and it clears up fairly well, but still, if you're shooting RAW and your editing software does not do these corrections right away, you should look out for those issues. This lens has a nice little party trick up its sleeve. It can focus as closely as 19 centimeters to your subject, and I love wide-angle lenses that get you close to whatever you're shooting. At f1.4, close-up image quality is very good, but just a bit softer than at normal distances. At f2 and f2.8, the image sharpens up to perfection. Let's see how the lens works against bright lights now. Some gentle flaring is visible here, but still, it's a better performance than average, nothing to seriously worry about here. And while we're working in the dark, let's take a look at chroma levels. Bright points of light in image corners show just a touch of chroma smearing, which is lower than average, but still could cause a minor problem for critical astrophotography. Stop down to f2 though, and it clears up right away. Let's zoom out now and look for sun stars. You need to stop down to f8 to see them begin to emerge. At f11 and f16 particularly, they become spectacular, which is always fun to see. Next, bokeh. At f1.4 you can get pretty nicely out of focus backgrounds and they look decently smooth. Perhaps not the softest I've ever seen, but there's still certainly nothing disturbing going on here. And finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f1.4 there's only a touch of colour fringing on bokeh highlights. Stop down to f2 and it's virtually gone, so that's another much better performance than usual. Overall, well, the first question you'll probably ask if testing this lens yourself will be, has this thing fallen from a spaceship or something? The original 23mm f1.4 lens quite sorely needed an update in my opinion, but Fuji have done more than that. They've blown the old design out of the water and it's well worth its expensive price tag. Enough said, highly recommended. It's been so refreshing to check out those updated Fuji lenses. I hope they do the old 56mm f1.2 lenses too. Thanks for watching, and a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters who really are making a big difference to me getting these reviews out so often. Check the link in the description below to find out more and to discover some of the exclusive bonus content down there. Ciao for now.